What's going on, everyone? Dots here, and today I'm bringing you a guide on which items to keep in Black Desert Online. This has probably been one of the most requested guides for me to make on BDO due to the fact that the game throws an absurd amount of items at you very quickly, and it can be challenging to figure out which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of. So today's guide is going to focus on which items you should keep and what they do. But before we get into the guide, I do just want to thank today's sponsor, eWin Racing. I've been using an eWin Racing gaming chair for my stream setup for a long time now, and I absolutely love it. It's got all the things you would expect from your gaming chair. It's got a lumbar pillow, it's got a neck support. You are able to move the back up and down. Of course, you are able to ascend and descend with an arm on the side of the chair, and you are also able to move and adjust the angle of the armrest, which can be really handy depending on where you have your mouse positioned. The build quality of the chair is really good. It's extremely comfortable, and I'm able to sit in this thing for hours with absolutely no issue. If you want to pick up a chair for yourself, I personally have the Champion model. You are able to go onto eWin's website and shop their current available listings. They have some current deals and ongoings on their homepage. You can then look at their list of gaming chairs as well as their new line of gaming desks and find some specials of what they have on for sale. You can pick anything up from their store for 30% off using code DOTS at checkout and clicking the link in the description below. So now that we are back from the ad break, like I said, we're going to be going over what items you want to keep in BDO. Anything else you could pretty much safely sell on the central marketplace for silver. Early on, liquid silver is really important to getting your account started. So certain things that you won't be using for a long time anyway, you're better off just selling for now on the marketplace to other players for silver and start progressing your account faster. You can always earn more silver and buy those things back later on. As a new player, we want to make gains, and silver obviously is going to help us accomplish that. Now, if there's an item that you don't know what it does and it can't be sold on the marketplace, I always recommend as a new player, picking a bank in a town and making that, like, I call it like my shit bank, where it's like, I don't know what this does. I'm not sure what the heck to do with this, so I'm just going to chuck it in that bank and I'll figure it out at another time. I had one of those when I was a new player. It was really good because once I learned more about the game and once I figured out what things did, I was then able to go back to that bank and then use the items for what they were intended for. But at the beginning, maybe you don't know, so it's a good thing to have, and I personally found it helpful. But we're going to go over a ton of items today so that hopefully by the end of this guide, you do know what many of these items do. And kicking it off with our first one is going to be the lila's petals, which I have a bunch right here. So these are used to purchase a fairy at the Silv Temple, which is located just east of Heidel. Actually, right here, that is a farm. This is the Silv Temple, located just east of Heidel. Now, the fairies are exchanged with an NPC there. The petals are exchanged with an NPC there to acquire yourself a fairy. And fairies give you a ton of passive benefits. Now, the radiant fairies are the T4 fairies. These are the best. Now, tier 1 is known as faint. Those are the worst. Now, you're going to want to, like I said, bring the petals to the NPC there to exchange them repeatedly until you eventually get a radiant fairy. And then you can go ahead and level up that fairy and start working through the fairy system. But the reason that it's important to get is for this perk right here, Miraculous Cheer. This auto uses your potions when your HP and resource is depleted, so you don't actually have to press those buttons yourself. The fairy uses it for you. So it's a very important quality of life progression on your account. And to learn more about the system, I do have a guide on my channel that goes over it, which I will link in the description below. Now, the next thing that we want to save is going to be hunter seals. So hunter seals are gotten in a wide variety of ways, and they can be exchanged for blackstones if you bring them to Tariff, which is another town just east of Heidel. So you come down the road and you can see it right here. You bring it to the jeweler in Tariff and you can exchange them for blackstones. Well, Dots, why would I want to exchange them for blackstones? Because blackstones are going to be the next item that you want to save. They're very important and they do a lot of things in the world of Black Desert. They're primarily used for Enhancement, which is BDO's RNG upgrade gearing system. Now, there are a ton of different types of blackstones used for a ton of different enhancements. So depending on what type of gear you're enhancing, a different blackstone will be used. Thankfully, though, there is a, I guess relatively new, but there's a guaranteed pen system in the game now, which allows you to achieve the highest enhancement rating of gear, known as pen, on a piece without actually going through the enhancement process. And I also have guides for those guaranteed pen systems, because there's one for weapons and armor and one for an accessory. Again, linked in the description below. So our main thing we're going to want to focus on is saving materials for those systems. Now, that is going to be the Blackstone that I just showed you. So that is going to be, we have Blackstone weapon and Blackstone armor. We're also going to want to save sharp, I believe they're called sharp black magic crystals, or excuse me, sharp black crystal shards. And then there is also hard black crystal shards. Hard black crystal, if I can actually learn to type today. Hard black crystal shards. So we're going to want to save those as well. Now, Blackstone armor combines with the hard black crystal shard to make concentrated magical blackstones for armor, while the sharp black crystal shard combines with the Blackstone weapon to make concentrated magical blackstone weapon. You need a bunch of these concentrated magical blackstones to make your guaranteed pen, armor, and weapons, so they are definitely worth saving. In addition, you can also make, like I said earlier, one guaranteed pen accessory, and for those, you need a ton of the regular armor and weapon blackstones. So again, more reason to hold on to these. Another item that you could also save is called the Mass of Pure Magic, for when you want to get into Black Star Enhancement, if you ever do decide, which is an enhancement way later on in the game. And these will actually combine with those concentrated magical blackstones to create the blackstones required for Black Star Enhancement. But the reason I recommend holding on to these is they don't sell for very much. You can't sell them on the MP. And if you ever want to get into Black Star Enhancement, it's a good thing to save. So just hold on to it. Now, in the same vein, speaking of enhancement, I recommend holding on to memory fragments, which I only have a couple right here. Memory fragments are used to recover durability on your gear when you fail an enhancement. So, like in most MMORPGs, gear durability in BDO goes down when you play and fight in combat. You repair your gear when it gets damaged, but if you don't and it breaks, you obviously lose stats, stereotypically like any other MMO. But for example, let's say in BDO, a gear piece has a max durability of 100. You can lose, you can actually lose maximum durability if you fail an enhancement, and it will lower the max durability to, let's say, 90. So now, let's say you repair that piece of gear, it will only repair up to 90 durability, not 100. So memory fragments are used to recover that max durability difference that you lose when you fail an enhancement. So you can go to basically any NPC that can repair for you. This is like a blacksmith or a stable keeper. And then you can, hit recover max durability and then utilize the memory fragments to bring it back up to 100 and then repair it. Now, for those of you who are not enhancing, you still do need a ton of memory fragments for the guaranteed pens, 1,000 per piece. So you are going to want to hold on to these. Continuing to talk about the guaranteed pen gear, though, we also have something else, which is called a Jonas fragment, which I have a bunch of them right here. So you can get these from a variety of mob drops in the world, and you could also get these from actually heating yellow quality accessories, assuming you have the right knowledge for it. You can just search like Jonas fragment knowledge in Google, and you can find an article, a couple articles on how to do it. But you just go to simple processing, you go to heating, and then with any yellow quality accessory, you can heat it down into a Jonas fragment. But there's like a little bit of knowledge you got to go through. But again, you need those as well for the guaranteed pen accessory. So if you do get those from mob drops, hold onto them. There's another item that you need. It is called the magical shards. I really hope I have some so that I could actually show you. I think I should still do. Yeah, I do. I have 22 magical shards. So these are also good to hold on to as well. They're needed for both the guaranteed pen armor and weapon system, as well as the guaranteed pen accessory system. These come from heating up yellow quality crystals. You need a bunch of these, so once again, hold onto them. The next thing I recommend holding on to is ancient spirit dust. You combine these with the Blackstone armor and weapons that I showed you guys earlier to make coffer stones. Now, coffer stones are an important part of your end game progression, and I talk about how they work in my enhancing guide. It's good. They look like this. As you can see, though, they sell for 2.8 mil per stone. Okay. Now, while some people may disagree with me, I do personally feel that you should sell your coffers early on. Again, if you don't know what a coffers does, I talk about them in my enhancement guide, again, linked in the description below. But I personally think that early on in your journey, selling coffers is a good idea. You're not going to be using coffers for quite a bit after you start your journey in BDO, and with how much they sell for, I personally think that the liquid silver you gain from them is way more important early on than just hoarding all of them for, you know, later down the line. So I recommend holding on to the dust, turning it into coffers by combining it with your black stones, and then selling those for a nice profit. Now, continuing to discuss enhancement-related things and items, you're going to want to hold onto any Valk's Cry and Advice of the Valks. So if I show you guys here, we have our Valk's Cry. I have a bunch of these right here, which increase my enhancement chance. And then we also have these Advice of the Valks. You can see a bunch of these right here with all these numbers. And you might go, well, Dots, I have no idea what any of those mean. So these are all really, really handy for enhancing. Even if you don't plan on enhancing very much, they're very helpful if you make a seasoned character and do your Tuvala enhancement. Advice of the Valks are kind of like canned fail stacks that help you get a higher chance to enhance a piece of gear. So Dots, what's a fail stack guide? I don't watch your enhancing guide yet. So again, BDO has an RNG enhancing system for increasing gear. A fail stack is like a failure protection where the higher your fail stack, the better the chance you are of succeeding your next enhancement. So the higher the canned fail stack you get from Advice of the Valks, the higher your chances to successfully enhance a piece of gear. On top of that, you could also use Valk's Cry to give yourself an additional 10 enhancement chance, just right on top of whatever stack. So let's say hypothetically, I use my Advice of the Valks plus 10 to give my character a plus 10 fail stack. I can then add an additional 10 Valk's Cry to bring it up to 20. Again, if you do want more details on enhancement and a better explanation, refer to my enhancement guide in the description below. But you're going to want to save those Advice of the Valks and the Valk's Cry, even if you don't plan on enhancing that much. Just because, again, for the times you do decide, like if you make a season character or later on, if you want to do Cron attempts at higher quality gear, you're going to want to have those on hand. Speaking of which, you're going to want to save Cron stones. Cron stones is probably like one of the most important enhancement related items to save. They are super duper 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 important. These stones allow you to attempt an enhancement without the item ranking down if you fail. So in BDO, when you attempt a enhancement, typically these are more like at the higher tiered enhancements, failed enhancement chances will actually cause your item to rank down in enhancement value. So they actually lose power if you fail. But you do gain a fail stack. It's like, yippee, yeah, I gained a fail stack, but now my item is weaker. That sucks. So that's where Cron stones come in. Cron stones allow you to protect that item and prevent it from losing enhancement power and enhancement value. So, let's say pen is the highest we talked about, right? Let's say you have a tet weapon, which is what's below it. You're going for pen. If you use a Cron stone and fail, your item stays tet. If you don't use a Cron stone and fail, it goes down to try. So we don't want that to happen when we're getting pretty close to the, the higher enhancement ratings, right? So you're going to want to save these Cron stones when you're pushing those important pieces of gear to your higher enhancement tiers, and you really don't want it to rank down. The Cron stones will protect it from ranking down. So it's really important to hoard, and especially when you get to those higher enhancement chances, it typically uses a lot of stones. So absolutely keep these. They become very crucial later on in the game. Now, moving into some less crucial things, your next item is just the basic traveler's map. So this is a really useful thing to be able to just travel to your nearest town. If you're stuck in like a weird spot, or like, you're just in an awkward place, a random spot, and you're like, I'm not sure how to get out of here. You can just use the traveler's map to map back to town, or just simply use it to save some time. You're also going to want to save carrots. You're going to want to keep a bunch of these in your inventory. You use these to feed your horse and recover its HP and stamina. Stamina is really crucial for the horse, as it allows it to, obviously take you from place to place without needing to slow down, and allows you to sprint and do the drifted instant excel and all that stuff to basically get you from place to place as quickly as possible. So keeping carrots on you is going to be very important. Now, the next category of items, I don't really know what to call it, so I'm just going to call them XP items. That's all these like different scrolls that give you experience, including the golden bell. You obviously just want to hold on to all of these. They will just increase your experience. Keeping these is important, obviously, to give yourself experience boosts, and we do not want to just throw free experience into the garbage. Similarly, we want to keep item collection scrolls. As we can see, I have 538 of those right here. Why do we want to save those? They're very, very, very important for our grinding in Black Desert Online. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit escape. You're going to want to hit the item collection gauge, and then this gauge right here will pop up. Now, if we hover our mouse over this, well, if we click it, right? So you have two different levels of this gauge that you can turn on. Level 1 gives you 100% additional item drop rate, which basically just increases the amount of trash loot you gain, which at a lot of grind spots in the game just essentially means you're making more money. But on the flip side, it also gives you, that's 50% for level 1. But then it also gives you 100% item drop rate, which increases the chance to get rare items from where you are farming. So the level 1 is 50% increased trash, 100% increased like rare drop chance. Level 2 utilizes your loot scrolls significantly quicker, at double the rate, but you also get an additional 50% trash loot, now up to 100% additional trash loot. So if you notice, your chance for rare drops doesn't go up, but you do gain additional trash loot. So typically, if you've watched a streamer or like a YouTuber and they're like, oh, blue loot scroll versus gold loot scroll, that's what this is referring to. It's kind of like a reference to the way that it used to be. But now that we have the gauge, quote, blue loot scroll is level 1 and a gold loot scroll is level 2. But just keep in mind that level 2 burns this counter down at twice the rate of level 1. Now you add to this counter by clicking the plus sign and then adding item collection scrolls to it. So it's really important to have these to be able to feed this gauge to be able to farm up like and get the most amount of items that you can get when you are grinding in BDO. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to save a ton of is any Shakatu seal. These are very, 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 very important to save. You get these typically from like login rewards or events, and they can be exchanged with Delis in Shakatu for some really good items that can sell for a lot of money. Like some, basically like, with the old shiny Shakatu seals, like every time I think it was like either 100 or 120 or something, you essentially were just getting like 4 billion silver, so it was always good to hold on to these for when you really needed them and you can exchange some money. So very, very, very helpful. Now, the final item that I want to discuss today is actually the Dark Spirits Greed. That's going to be these right here. These are looted in a variety of ways. It can be exchanged with, I think, skill instructors for a bunch of different items. The latent auras are really good for the guaranteed pen system. Otherwise, you can just get item collection scrolls or advice of the Valks. Now, like I said, guys, if there's anything else that you don't know what it does, you can always toss it in an additional bank. But what I really, really recommend doing is that if there's an item that you're not sure what it does, take a second and just like read the tooltip. And I'm not trying to say that to like be a jerk, but most items in BDO honestly have pretty solid descriptions. It can be really overwhelming when you look at an item and you just see this just a wall of text in front of you and you're like, I have no idea what this does. But because that used to be me. I used to just say like, this is too much. I don't know what this is. I'm going to toss it in a bank somewhere. But then eventually I was like, I want to really learn what this does. And I sat down and I took the time to read the tooltips and understand what each thing did. And it really made a lot more sense when I sat down and read it. The tooltips are actually pretty good in BDO. But I will say that a general rule of thumb is that like most of the random miscellaneous currencies that you get in BDO, it's a Korean MMO, currency bloat is super real. It's typically just like, you get a bunch of currency, you exchange it for something else. So if you're never sure what to do, just right click the item, go NPC location, it'll auto path you to that NPC, just bring the item there and be like, all right, what can I get? And then see what your options are and then choose whatever's best for you at the time. But I think on that note, I think I actually covered all of the major points I wanted to hit today. Hopefully this guide did help you guys out. If there's any item that you have in your inventory that you're really not sure what you should do with and you want to know, leave it in the comments below and hopefully myself or someone else can help you out. And if you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate a lot if you left a like on it and subscribe for more BDO and MMORPG beginner guides. So thank you all so much for stopping by today. I do very much appreciate it. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next one.